Hello and welcome to the Full FX Unfiltered. My name is Colin Lambert. I'm publisher of the Full FX, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Mattias Eriksson, who is co-founder of C8 Technologies, and Jon Webb. Nice to see you again, Jon, who is head of C8 Hedge. Jon, I'd like to start with you because what we're going to talk about today is, currency risk management and companies' hedging policies. Yeah. So, why is currency risk management so important?
Yeah, I think it's very important, not just as a sort of standalone looking at currency movements, but in this context, if you have an asset manager buys an overseas asset, they immediately have the asset to manage, but also an accompanying foreign exchange exposure. Yeah. Similarly, if a corporate is selling products overseas, they're in exactly the same situation. They get receivables. They are managing the products, selling the products, but selling overseas, you immediately get the currency exchange risk involved with selling overseas. And the bit we're interested in, C8 Hedge is interested in, is what should you do with the hedge? How should the client protect themselves? And you say, well, what's the reason for that? Well, firstly, they have much better knowledge of how much money they're coming in because they've hedged the exposure. They don't have the FX movements changing their receivable income or the value of the asset, and it just means that they can budget much better. They've got a much closer idea of how much money is actually going to come into the accounts, which of course are based in their domestic currency. Yeah,
and Mattias, I mean, obviously, as a co-founder of C8 Technologies, I sense that you feel that this can be done better. Currency risk management generally can maybe be done better.
Absolutely. It seems that many people are doing quite ad hoc. So you get this cash event or whatever, and then you start to think, how should I actually do this? So what we try to do is introduce a more systematic, process-driven way to do the currency management. In that way, people can, in a way, have a way to document why they take the decision and then follow up what happens and learn of the process.
Yeah, and this kind of gets us into the whole active versus passive debate, doesn't it? I mean, yeah. I guess systematic is generally speaking in terms of my view of it would be active. Yes. But I think there are passive people, passive managers that will probably use a systematic process as well. Where do you sit there?
So in the end, what we are looking for is the results after trading or what you are doing. And what we see when you do have a little bit more active, you maybe have more kind of transactions, but in the end, you actually protect yourself better. Yeah. So in an active world, maybe you can adjust yourself quicker if something happens, but not too quick. So it's definitely a balance.
Because that is actually one of the criticisms, I guess, of active management, isn't it, Jon, that you end up over trading? So is it important just to make sure you get that balance right?
I think that's right, and I think what's really good about our approach is that you can basically see what would happen in history. We run these models, these macroeconomic models, we've got machine learning, we have various tools that we've developed over many years, and we put that all together, but you can actually look back and say, yes, you do trade more, but you are taking advantage of movements in the foreign exchange markets, and that means that the extra turnover is paid for many times over.
And this comes down to one of the modern truisms: the data will show you the benefit or otherwise what's going on.
This is very much right. So that's what we're basically doing. We're using data in order to take an informed decision. Absolutely. Yeah. And as Jon is saying, you kind of build confidence in the model by you can actually see what happened in the past. It's all about that the client feel this can work for me, and how can I, feel comfortable in the decisions.
Yeah.
And I could add one thing to that as well, is I think there's a big difference between if you're just reactive, if you say, oh no, currency's going down, I better hedge it, to being proactive. And what we're looking at is the underlying macroeconomic drivers, we're looking at the technicals in the markets and various other ways. And then you're actually proactive, and if you're putting the hedges on before the moves, not waiting till after, which of course it can be problematic.
And I guess the other important thing as well is it's at the base end of of humankind, I guess, the client is actually still in control of their hedging process.
Absolutely. So the kind of the program we have developed is very much that the client, and it's all about so the client feel it's easy to use the program.
Yeah.
Because we all know what FX is, it can be quite complicated, but this is all about usability. And as you say, if they're using our program, they still can use the current way to trade and the current way to back office, middle office. So this is just about taking an informed decision.
Yeah. So can you give me a little bit more detail about how it actually does work? I mean, obviously, yes, the client's still in control, but if I was, for instance, going to come on to C8 Hedge, what would I be looking at in terms of my workflow and processes that I've, to, I guess, get the best out of the tool?
Absolutely. So once a month, all these factors that Jon has been talking about is updated. So we get the latest macro, the latest kind of technical factors, how they are in the market. And then the client can use that to hedge 1 month forward. And of course, it's an informed decision. So if he wants to hedge longer, of course, he can use the same signal.
Yeah.
So this is not a kind of a trading system or anything like this. This is updated monthly, and we believe can be used in the current process for the client.
But the grounding for the product is actually from your experience as a trader, isn't it?
Absolutely. So myself and Ebrahim and the other co-founder Ebrahim, we've been trading FX since late 90s, and we have been always systematics. So we currently have other programs trading with these kind of systems. So what we have done is backing out a signal from the trading systems, and that is the way we get an informed decision. So it's almost like you are getting more alpha from the current system and apply it on a new world or a new hedging.
Yeah.
But I think one important thing is when you do that and we turn it into a hedging portfolio, is that we take account of the mandate, the mandate for the Treasury in terms of what they can do and what they can't do, the risk limits, what is the, if they can say their target hedge is hedge 50% of an exposure, their mandate might be you can be between 0 and 100, for example. Yeah. So one of the advantages of our system is you can put all that information in to the system, and then it will give you the hedging ratios of the whole portfolio that actually keep you within the mandate, which I think is quite important, because things can get quite complicated, different currencies. You've got assets, you've got liabilities, you have different, some currencies more risky than others. And I think taking all that together, I think, as Mattias was saying, the real secret is that we're trying to make that very, very easy to use.
Yeah, and actually that portfolio effect is actually quite an important factor in this, isn't it? Rather than just hedging an individual currency pair.
Exactly. Because sometimes people get obsessed with just one currency. Yeah. But if your book has 5 currencies, what is most important is the kind of general, what you can do as a portfolio. So the combination of your investments. Yeah. And that relates very much to systematic trading, that you have a lot of signals, but you put it together, and then you get a kind of a better signal.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess just to close out then, I'll put I'm going to be a client of C8 Hedge. Sorry, I haven't got that big a portfolio going forward. But
you're Australian,
somewhere there's going to be some money somewhere, but I'm not sure you can trade that small. But I mean, for clients, what would be your optimal outcomes for these clients?
I think overall the aim is to just make their lives easier. If someone is a bond fund, they're probably very good at bonds, but you also have the foreign exchange exposure. You don't necessarily have to be an expert in that area, which I think what we're saying is we'll bring that expertise to the table. You bring your bond trading knowledge to the table, or if it's a manufacturer selling products, based in the UK, selling in Brazil, they, obviously that's their own expertise. But I think you combine it together, and what we can bring is the FX expertise to just try and make their lives easier, but also potentially, taking advantage of these models, taking advantage of the changing in the macroeconomic environment, that you actually can take advantage of some of the foreign exchange moves.
And sorry to bring this up, but you're a veteran enough of the market that you and I may have even traded against each other.
I'm sure we did. I'm sure we did.
And on that very sad note, I think we will end it. Gentlemen, thanks so much for your time today. I wish you all the best with C8 Hedge.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll be back again very soon. Thanks a lot.